impossible that there are no coincidences.
Hi, how you going? Welcome to my horror movie podcast. That's it. I say that every episode. Like, that's... I don't chuck an intro at the start. That's it. Wham bam.
That is the intro. We're in.
Yeah, we're in.
We're on.
Wham bam,
Let's
thank
go.
you, ma'am.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, thank you.
Great to meet you.
You too. This is probably the first episode I have another horror content creator. Everyone else has been gamers.
I'll take that title.
You can have that.
Yeah.
I'll get you a ribbon.
I talk in podcasts and other people edit them and do all the heavy lifting, and I just watch movies, get scared, and yeah.
So can you tell I'm going to call them TGIFers because I thought that was really funny. Small things amuse small minds. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and the Scaredy Boys podcast.
Yeah, sure. My name's Sean Carney. I work with the Sanspants Radio podcast network, and I have a show on there, which is where Kat came across me, which is called Scaredy Boys, which I do with two other guys, Damo and Tom. And we're all cowards, absolute cowards when it comes to horror films. We've barely seen any. In fact, Damo, I think when we started the show, had only seen like 3 horror movies in his entire life.
Oh my God.
We're big cowards. And we watch scary movies and then get together and discuss how we would survive in those situations. And then apart from the Scaredy Boys podcast, I do another one called How Good's Footy, which is about AFL football. And then top of that, I'm also a writer, and I've actually written some horror stuff, even though I'm a big coward. Yeah,
that's cool.
That's me.
Do you write books or?
I wrote a play,
that's so
a Dracula
cool.
play actually, that was staged in Melbourne a couple of years ago. I wrote a sequel to that Dracula story that was a novella, and then I've contributed to another novel along with Tom and Damo and another writer we worked with called Seasons of Fear, where we each took a season of the year. I did winter, and we all told different horror stories.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So for people who hate horror, we write a lot of horror stuff, which is weird, but it's cool. I don't know.
You know what's going to scare people.
Yeah, pretty much. Everything.
Just all the things.
Yeah.
Everything possible.
Mm-hmm.
So you've chosen to talk about Signs, which I thought was really interesting because this came out only in 2002, so it's only 18 years old. Everyone else talks the classics, and you've gone with Signs. Why is that?
I probably haven't seen enough of the classics because Scaredy Boy. I picked Signs. I mean, I thought it was funny to pick Signs, actually, because it's not even, for most people, it's probably not even a horror movie.
Oh, no, this movie
like
scares the shit out of me.
It's just a sci-fi thriller. But yeah, it scared the hell out of me. And I was thinking, like, for your show, we're talking about what was the first horror movie that you watched. And I honestly can't remember. Like, so I'm 30, so when this came out, I feel like I was about 14 when I saw it. So obviously I've seen scarier things when I was younger, but maybe I've blocked out the memory in my mind. Like,
it's in
it was
a little
too
box
traumatic.
in your brain.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah, but also I didn't like actively look for horror movies. My mum didn't like us watching messed up stuff anyway, but she didn't have to try very hard. I was like, Nick, please enforce the law, Mum, because I don't want to watch this stuff. See, I think I watched Signs because my brother I reckon my brother would have bought the DVD. I reckon that's how it sort of eventuated.
Yeah. So you've got older siblings that put you through hell.
Yep. And like, we're all big cowards. I don't think anyone in my family loves horror movies.
Oh, wow.
But I think
mine's the opposite.
For my older brother, who's only like 4 years older than me, but I think for him it was a case of, I had to suffer through this, so now you all will as well. And it was particularly tough for us because we grew up on a farm. So I would watch this movie and then like go to sleep at night, and if I opened the curtain, I'd be looking out at like huge paddock with tall grass, and then my brother was a smart ass, and he'd like walk down the hallway at night and do like the alien, like the like the clicking language that they use, and yeah, big piece of shit.
Big piece of shit.
Yeah,
shout out to him.
Dog. Good on you, Daniel. But yeah, no, this movie, it scared me, and probably the big thing was, I mean, I think everyone's a little bit scared of aliens, and what could possibly be out there. But also, yeah, the big thing was the farm. I think it was the farm. I looked at that setting and I went, "Holy shit,
That's
this
me.
is my life."
I'm next in this alien invasion.
Yeah.
See, I grew up on the coast, so no risk of me getting
lucky you
invaded by
had
aliens.
the water.
I had water. I could just run into the ocean.
I reckon I probably started having multiple water glasses around the house after watching this movie.
I just do that anyway. But now I know
just
why.
gotta stay protected. Yeah.
I have like a colony.
The aliens that could be there at any time.
Yeah, I have a colony of water glasses in my room all the time.
It's like, should clean that up, but also want to survive.
Exactly. I mean, half of it's laziness, but now I can just like deflect and say it's because of aliens. And it's just, I can just justify keeping them there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, the film released in, 2002, so we would have been, I turned 13 that year, so.
Yeah, I think I would have been the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it had a budget of $72 million, which isn't too bad for then.
Pretty hefty back then, yeah.
But
that's sort of I think your bigger films back then were probably around the 100 mark.
Yeah.
So it was pretty decent, actually, for what it is, which is essentially like for the most part, a one location sort of movie. I honestly, I wonder how much of that budget was the upfront fee for Mel Gibson.
I was about to say the same.
Yeah.
Like, how much did they pay Mel Gibson?
Mel Gibson, early 2002, he would have been getting like 20 million a movie or something,
Easy.
I reckon.
So let's say they had a budget of 52 million.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix.
So good job.
Though. Joaquin? How do you say his name?
Yeah, Joaquin.
Joaquin, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm such a...
I hope.
I think. I just, as soon as I see that, I'm like, that's how you say it.
Yeah.
That's how you...
Yeah, it's a funny name.
Why would you say...
All his family have interesting names.
Oh, really?
Well, there was... Now I've said that I've forgotten what they all are, but I think you got Joaquin, and then you had River Phoenix, and I think Autumn Phoenix was another one.
Nice.
And Joaquin wasn't his birth name. He was something else, which I cannot remember now, but it was something to do with nature.
Oh.
No, it was something sort of out there.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm going to Google
and
that
then
later.
for some reason he was like, I need a more serious name, and I'm going to choose Joaquin.
I need to be taken seriously. And I'm going to spell it nothing like how it's said. Fuck.
Good on him.
But yeah, exactly. So it actually, it grossed pretty high at the box office at $408 million, which is pretty good. So they earned their Mel Gibson money back.
Yeah, I think at the time it was definitely his second most successful movie, M. Night Shyamalan's.
Yeah.
Because he had The Sixth Sense, which was enormous.
I love that movie so much.
I haven't seen it because I'm a coward, but
It's
I still
really
think
good.
that Signs is his second highest grossing film. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, at that time. Because then The Happening happened.
I would say that it is probably his last great film.
I was going to say, Although I really...
I mean, I haven't seen all his stuff, but I've seen The Happening, and it's not good.
No.
And I've seen The Last Airbender, and it's dreadful.
I haven't. I just
horrible.
refuse to watch it.
Oh, have you seen the show?
No.
Oh, the
That's
show is
probably
like
why
one
I
of the
refuse to
greatest
watch
things ever made, and then the movie is just like this huge piece of shit that you're just like, what the fuck? What?
How did this come of this? How?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like he said he was a big fan of the show, but then you watch his movie, and even just like little details which annoy fans, where they pronounce the characters' names incorrectly.
Oh.
Like in the show, he's the Avatar.
Yeah.
And then in the movie, everyone calls him the Avatar. And it's like, what the
Are
hell?
they Canadian?
Who knows? It's like, do you like this thing or not?
Hates
and
it.
I don't think he did.
He fucking hates it. So he was just like, let's ruin the shit out of it.
But Signs came out at a pretty good time for him because he was riding the wave of The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
And actually, I often forget Unbreakable's a really good film too.
I really liked
That he did
Unbreakable.
with Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson.
But he followed that
That's
up
a great
with
film.
he did The Village just after this, and I liked The Village.
I've never seen
Oh,
it
it's good.
because I was scared.
I love that.
But he did like a twist ending, didn't he? Again?
Yeah.
That's his thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but there wasn't
So I
really
think
a
the
twist in
fatigue
this.
set in.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to call it a twist, it's that water defeats the aliens, I guess, is his twist ending. But then, because I think
That's disappointing.
a lot of people were disappointed with the ending.
Yeah.
And then he did The Village, and then I think he did another twist ending, and people were like, all right, this is a bit of a one-trick pony here. And then he kind of just kept doing twist endings,
Yeah.
and people were like, come on, man.
Let's do something else. Although he did Lady in the Water, which I haven't seen yet, but...
Yeah, I haven't.
I don't even know if it's a horror movie, but if it's
I saw the trailer, and I was like, nah, not for me.
scary.
It's a scary vibe, whether it's a horror or not.
Too spooky.
It's a lady in the water. That's too much for me.
It's by Shyamalan.
Who knows
There's a
what she's
lady in the
doing.
water. No, out. Done. Not today. So, it scored 74% on Rotten Tomatoes, which blew my mind.
That's pretty good. Were you expecting worse or
Well,
better?
it's Rotten Tomatoes, so worse.
Like, I could, personally, I'd go higher. I mean, I just rewatched it the day before yesterday.
Yeah.
And on Letterboxd, I really debated whether to give it a 5. I wanted to. You got to cherish your 5s, I think. You can't just be throwing them out. I gave it a 4.5 because the ending's pretty wacky, I think.
Yeah, the ending is pretty good.
But, like, so much of it, I think, is such a beautifully constructed movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of the films of his that I've seen, this is clearly his best.
Yeah.
Having not seen Sixth
Well, you haven't
Sense.
seen Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
That movie is phenomenal. And I would have watched it... I would have been quite young when I watched it because my dad actually wanted to see it because it had Bruce Willis. And my dad loves Bruce Willis. So we had to obviously watch The Sixth Sense. But, oh man, there's this one scene where... I think a ghost pukes everywhere. And I have a weak stomach. And so I remember the first time I watched that movie, I was like, oh, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be sick. There's a decaying person vomiting everywhere. This is disgusting. And so...
you didn't see it in a cinema, did you?
No. We rented it
thank-
on VHS.
Yeah. Because I think that would have come out like 20 years ago, I think.
Yeah, easy.
And I think I remember that because on Hamish and Andy, they interviewed M. Night Shyamalan about revealing the twist ending, and he said you can't reveal it until 20 years after the movie comes out. So then on an episode of their show, it was 20 years to the day it came out, and they just started like calling people and telling them.
No!
I mean, they're like, but it's fine because he said we could.
It's 20 years. And so, do you know the ending?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, you found it.
I mean, in terms of... we may as well... Maybe we shouldn't talk about it in case no one's seen it.
You have to...
But
everyone has to watch it.
It's exactly what I think I've heard it is. I'm assuming that's... Here's my question to you. Knowing the ending, the twist, will I still enjoy the film?
Yes.
Or is so much of the film... Okay. All right.
A lot of it is... It hangs on that twist ending, but it is a really, really good movie. And lots of character arcs, and because you get to know each of the people that this kid sees, and that is really nice.
Is it a horror film?
I think it's more suspense thriller, but the fact that
Does it get put in that category though?
No, I think it gets put in horror.
Okay.
Like I'd consider it a horror movie, so
maybe I'll make the Scaredy Boys watch it.
Yeah, do it. It's just such a good movie. It really is. Maybe I'll watch that tonight. I don't know. Amelia, I'm a comfort person, so like I hate watching new things. I like watching things I've already seen before because then I know the ending and nothing can take me by surprise.
No, I totally understand that. I've got like a long list of new things that I want to watch. But half the time you sit down on the couch and you just think, man, I just want to watch Hot Fuzz again.
I just want to watch
or Paddington.
Forensic Files.
I'll tell you what the best film to watch after a scary movie is, and it's Paddington.
It's Paddington. I haven't even seen that movie.
Because it's the most joyous, big-hearted movie in the world. And actually the sequel is somehow even better. The sequel's like up there with the very best films I've ever seen in my life. It's ridiculous.
Okay, I'm going to have to watch them.
But it'll make you feel good. Like, so if you watch a horrible horror movie that you just feel sick, put Paddington on and everything will be fine.
I feel...
Oh, really? That's lucky.
I feel like after I watch a horror movie, I'm like, oh, that was really good. That was great.
I have to watch like 2 comedies before I can go to bed.
No, I just watch an episode of Forensic Files or The First 48, Unsolved Mysteries.
Okay, jeez. All right.
That's my debrief.
Nerves of steel over here.
No, I'm not a comedy person.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I can sit through a comedy movie, but I'd prefer to watch a horror movie.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's just
you're doing the right podcast.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's comfort. It's like a thing that I'm like, I know I'm going to enjoy it, regardless of blood and guts.
I can't fathom horror as a comfort. It's crazy.
I actually started watching a TV series on Netflix with Sarah Paulson called Ratched. And my sister's watching it, and she's not the kind of person that really likes that kind of stuff. And she was describing it to her husband, and she's like, look, if you saw me watching it, you'd be like, Emily, what the fuck are you watching? What is this? I was like, and that's not what... The show isn't like that at all. What the hell are you talking...
Is it scary?
It's intense.
Yeah, okay, that's scary.
Yeah.
That's code for scary.
There's like no horror themes. It's just, like I said, it's intense because there's like medical procedures and lobotomies happening.
None of that.
And yeah.
Have you watched The Haunting of Hill House?
I'm halfway through season 1.
And in terms of scariness, how do you rate that?
Probably about
Is that quite
7
scary?
or an 8. Supernatural horror scares me.
For me, that's like 100. The Haunting of Hill House is probably the scariest thing I've ever seen.
I'm really enjoying it though. I think I'm up to episode 4. Where have you watched? Are you watching it?
I've seen it.
Yeah, where
I've seen.
You're finding out about the daughter's ability to like communicate telepathically, know people, and I was like, I really like that. So
there is an episode. I can't remember which one. You'll find it at some point. It has a moment that killed me. Like I thought I was dead. It's a jump scare, and it was so scary.
I'll let you know when I find it.
I wanted to die, to be finished with the show. It was so bad.
My grandma watched it without me, and I said to her, it would have been only a couple of weeks ago because I watched one episode and then I just didn't get into it, and someone said to me, it's a slow burn, like just keep watching. And so I said to my grandma, did you watch all of it? Did you enjoy it? And she's like, oh, fuck no, I didn't finish that. She's like, too scary. I was like, oh, great.
Yeah, it gets scarier.
Yeah.
I mean, it starts scary. I remember the first episode. I was like, what? I turned to my girlfriend and said, why did we decide to watch this? What are we doing?
See, my partner and I'd be watching it together, but we live 2 hours away from one another. And so we don't watch a lot of the same shows together except for The Boys. We watch that together and that's it. So...
Have you watched season 2?
No, we've been meaning to get into it, but he...
Yeah, I've only seen the first season. It was awesome.
Yeah, the first season was so good. I just I hope this season's just as good. It's just such a good show. It's a
good concept.
Who's the main actor in it?
Carl Urban.
Carl Urban, that's right.
The Kiwi.
The dude
He's
from
the
Lord
best.
of the Rings.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And he was Dredd.
Yeah, I
Have
couldn't
seen
think
Dredd?
of his name. Yeah, Judge Dredd. Oh, that movie's great too. Oh, goodness. So many movies.
Actually, Dredd's a weird one to be like, yeah, remember him from Dredd? You don't see his face. It's just a mask.
But his voice, like, he's still got that very commanding voice.
He could be Batman.
He should be Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He should be in everything. I'm a big fan of Carl Urban. I love him.
He's fantastic. Oh, I have so many movies to watch now. I can hear my grandma friggin' talking out in the living room. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
You're really loud. What's Ross doing? What's he eating? Hey, Pickles. Ew. Alright. It's only you I can hear. I thought you were on the phone yelling again. Alright, I'm back. The other night, she was on the phone to my mum on Facebook Messenger, like, yelling into the phone. And I thought something was going down in my house. And so I got up out of bed. Like, she woke me up. I could sleep through the apocalypse. Like, you couldn't wake me. I sleep like the dead. And so I go into her room and I'm like, what is going on here? And she's like, oh, I'm just on the phone to your mum. I was like, I thought you were being murdered. And now I know why I'm such a foghorn. Anyway. All jokes aside. Let's dive into the movie. So, I took heaps of notes last night because I was like, I've got to write about all the things that I really love in this, and I love that Abigail Breslin is in this film. She is so tiny and so cute.
This is her first movie, I wonder.
Yes, yeah,
it was. Well,
it was her acting debut.
Yeah, her performance is awesome.
She's so adorable, and I really like her as an actress now. And she was just so cute. So
yeah, she was great.
The opening scene, it's just like he's in his house doing dad things, picking things up. He wakes up, and because I did some research as well. Like I was reading what other people said about the movie and whatnot. And in the opening scene, the movie opens with a faded outline of a cross above his bed. Mm-hmm. And then we find out later that he is an ex-preacher. He's left the church. And so there's a scream out in the front yard, because like a farm has a front yard. It doesn't really have a front or a back, does it?
It's funny. Actually, that is funny that the farmhouse doesn't have like a side yard. The kids are only ever playing like in the front. Like, how come they're not in the back?
What's out the back?
It's really quite strange.
Now I need to know what's out the back.
I'm sure it's like a budget film decision where it's like, no, everything's happening in front of the house. But that is weird.
Or maybe farms are just like that in America.
Maybe the back is surrounded by cornfields. Is it a cornfield? I can't even think what the field is.
I think it's a cornfield. Yeah. Because Shyamalan wanted to do a cornfield. Because crop circles usually come up in wheat. Because it's easy to form, and he's like,
easier to cut.
Yeah. Let's do it in a cornfield, because it's really hard to do what we're getting. Like, it's really hard to make a crop circle in corn. So it'll be even scarier if we make a crop circle in corn. I didn't even notice.
I certainly didn't notice. So I don't think anyone noticed. No. Maybe some farmers in America were like, "Damn, well done, filmmakers. That's good." I think anyone else, I just assumed a field is a field.
Or it's the guy from Ancient Aliens. He's just like, that's hard to do. You can't do a crop circle in a cornfield.
Probably consulted him and he went, you better do that for my respect.
I love Ancient Aliens. I don't know if you watch it, but...
No, I'm aware of it.
It's brilliant.
The title puts me off. Yeah.
Aliens? Or...
Yeah, it's got aliens in it. I'm like, nah, that's not for me. Where's Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Let's have some comedy.
There's something funny. So they all rush out to the house, and Bo, who is played by Abigail Breslin, is, she's saying Morgan, who is played by Rory Culkin, who is Macaulay Culkin's brother. And he was actually in Lords of Chaos, which you probably haven't seen.
I haven't, no. But he's in Scott Pilgrim.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I know him from.
Yeah, I love
And from this, obviously.
Yes. And he was in Scream 4 as well.
Oh, okay. I've only seen Scream 1.
Yeah, me too.
Got to work my way through that franchise.
Yeah, I really want to watch 5 when it comes out in January, so...
I saw a poster for 5 recently, and Wait, did you say January?
Yeah, January 14th.
That's wild, because I just saw an announcement the other day about cast members signing on to it.
Yeah, so they...
And we're in September, and that's coming out in January.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So
that's
I
wild.
think they've had the movie obviously done, ready to go.
So they're not going to be main characters.
They are, yeah. So the thing is, like, I don't think I feel like they've been BTS filming and now just doing the press circuit for it. By saying, they're all coming back. But they've already been back filming. That's my
All right, no, well, that would make sense. That'd be the only way you could make a January release.
Yeah, absolutely.
My God. I mean, I know horror's quicker to put together sometimes, but far out.
Yeah, especially.
But anyway, the poster I saw was incredible, and then I realised it wasn't even like an official poster.
No,
it was just one that somebody
made
made.
one,
And
where
it should
it's
be
like the road going
the
into
mountain.
Ghostface mouth. Yeah, so cool.
That's so good.
It looks great.
They should pay that artist and make that the poster.
Yeah, because I went to share it and I was like,
poster.
oh wait, this isn't an official poster. I gotta relax.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so Rory Culkin, aka Morgan, is out in the field and he says, I think God did it. Because, there's this massive circle in the middle of their crops. Yeah. And it looks really cool because they do this massive pan out and you see the whole symbol.
Yeah, it's great. A helicopter shot.
It looks cool.
It's It's not really. I don't find it to be like a chilling moment.
No.
Interestingly enough,
But the
and I
music
don't know if
made
they're
it.
trying for it to be. Can we just talk about the music in this? Far out.
Yes.
This is brilliant.
I've made
this
so
is
many
like
notes about the
iconic
music.
horror music for me, and it was interesting. I was watching a film called Mirrors. I don't know if you're aware of that one.
I am aware, but I haven't seen it.
We watched it for Scaredy Boys, and it's starring Kiefer Sutherland, and basically there's an evil mirror, and I couldn't stand it. I thought it was a bad film. But in that film, there are scenes where he's walking around like an abandoned department store. It's like a real horror setting. It's quite spooky. But they're just playing like this orchestra, like cinematic music that's like really grand. And it's like, this is why I love Signs so much, because in that moment, it would just remove all sound.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing scarier than a character's footsteps crunching over something and something blowing, the wind blowing something behind you. That's what horror is. You've got to create the environment. And this movie Mirrors just like flooded it with like piano and organs. And I'm like, what are you doing?
No.
This isn't scary. So yeah,
yeah.
Signs is superb. And it's a pretty simple score.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much to it. It's a pretty recurring thing. But they just use it. They utilize it so well.
And I feel like Shyamalan does that in all his films with sound.
Yeah.
And mainly, I also feel like the absence of sound.
Yeah, that's a great point. I respect a filmmaker a lot for the way they use silence.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of filmmakers are probably scared to do it, but it's like you shouldn't
No,
be, because
do
that's the
it.
scariest thing.
Build that
when you have
atmosphere.
a character in a setting and they don't know what the hell's going on. The scariest thing is silence. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Signs is great for that. It's one of the best parts of the film.
Yeah.
The sound design.
The,
or lack of sometimes.
The composer was James Newton Howard, and he did Dark Knight, King Kong, Fantastic Beasts, and Where to Find Them. So, you know, he's done quite some...
He's a pro.
Yeah.
A legend.
And basically, Shyamalan said to him, go out and look at like Hitchcockian films and use, you know, that... the presence of music the same way that Hitchcock did in like Psycho and The Birds, which I haven't seen either of those, but yeah, and I think that he kind of just really built that atmosphere with the sound, especially like being out in the middle of nowhere, not hearing things would be scary, you know, like...
Oh yeah, I mean, growing up on a farm, like that's the scariest thing, is like what we would grow up and call farm noises. It was just like the house creaking or something out in the field, like just random noises that when you're in the city you don't notice, because it's just, well, in the city sometimes you're flooded with noise, cars and all sorts of traffic and just everything. But out there, oh, I'm in love with the sound design of this film. It's off its head. It's ridiculous.
And the cinematography too, like not just...
superb.
Everything was just great, and he doesn't use CGI, because Shyamalan's not a huge fan of CGI, and I think that's why they don't really show the aliens in this film as well. So,
well, it's also that, I think that Jaws element which was are you familiar with the backstory of Jaws?
kind of.
They didn't intend to make it that way. It's just the mechanical shark they had malfunctioned. And so suddenly Spielberg's like, well, how the hell are we supposed to do this movie where you can't see the shark? And that obviously became the iconic thing about it, is there's all these moments where you can't see the monster. And so many horror films do that now, where that's the scariest thing. A lot of horror films lose steam at the end, and Signs is one of them. When you get an extended look at the monster and you go, why was I so scared? It looks a bit silly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Signs is really powerful when you just get like, you know, little glimpses of its feet here and there and those things. And also the symbolism is so powerful. You mentioned the faded cross before. A lot of the early stuff they build in about religion and faith, which is the thematic through line of the movie, really, is a man's faith. It's just beautiful. Like that stuff is so good. The setups at the start of the film, they're just crazy. They actually give you everything you need to know for the film. You learn that it doesn't spoon feed you either.
Yeah.
You get enough information to know that he was a priest.
Yeah.
And like, you know, when he says to the cop, don't call me father anymore. And you're like, okay, something's happened. He's given up on his faith. He doesn't want to be a priest. You learn very early on that Morgan has asthma.
Yeah.
He's having his puffer. Bo's got a thing with water. She's leaving water everywhere. The dogs are acting funny. What's going on there? They're not normally like that.
Yeah.
So
And
I love the setup.
Even the police officer is saying, before when they realise that the dog's been acting weird, the police officer says to Graham, oh, you know, animals have been acting crazy, you know, they're even wetting themselves. And he's like, oh, wait, my dog did that. What the hell? And you
but he
see
doesn't
that
tell her.
look.
He doesn't tell her
No.
that. But you just see the look on his face. It's really strong filmmaking.
Yeah.
And also, the police officer's great too because she gives the kid the suggestion, why don't you use a baby monitor for a walkie-talkie? And the baby monitor obviously is a recurring thing.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff.
It's really
This is a really, really strong
powerful.
opening.
Yeah. And because this is when when I realised there were dogs in the film, I was like, fuck. Well, now I'm going to have to check the website, does the dog die in this movie? Because I was like, fuck, I gotta check this. And then 2 minutes later...
probably before it even loaded.
Yeah.
Bam.
Houdini is killed with...
a brutal one.
Stabbing,
Which you don't... I mean, you don't see the action, but
Thank
you
goodness.
see the result.
Yeah.
And also, there's one later that we don't see, but it still sucks to hear it happening.
I was just like, oh, because I honestly haven't seen this movie probably since the first time that I watched it. And I think it just set this like thing in my head where I was like, oh, I'm not going to watch that again.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. No, I don't want to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was watching this, it's like I was watching it all over again for the first time, which was awesome because I was like, I don't remember this happening. I obviously didn't analyze it as much as what I would have watching it 15 years ago. And it was just really, it's just so powerful. And, you know, at the start, they don't talk about what has happened to his wife, but there's some really strong dialogue with him and his daughter in one of the scenes just after the dog's killed. And I think it's the next morning or that afternoon. And Bo asks Graham, you know, why do you talk to Mum when you're by yourself? And he says, you know, it makes me feel good. And you know, does she ever respond to you? Do you ever get an answer? And she says, you know, don't worry, I never get an answer either. And I was like, that's a 4-year-old.
It's a really heartbreaking scene.
Yeah. And that's not the only heartbreaking scene in this movie. Like,
oh, no, it's off it. Like, I love a horror movie that has a lot of heart. And this just, through the setup and through all the scenes, it's just about a family. And that's what's really beautiful about it is that you care deeply about the family. Yeah. And so when the shit really hits the fan later on, you just, it crushes you, really. Yeah. It's great filmmaking. I'm really in awe of this. And then I watch some of his later stuff and I go, what happened to you, man? Because you had such a strong grasp on what you were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I like, because I think it's that same night that Graham sees a figure out on their barn roof. And I love this scene. Like, it just cracked me up because, you know, him and his brother Merrill, who's played by Joaquin, is saying, you know, you gotta curse. You gotta curse. And he's like, oh, you know, I don't think I can do it. And he runs out and they're running around the house and he's screaming that he's insane with anger. And then he's,
that's
you know,
literally, I am insane with anger.
And he's like running around
By
the
the end,
house.
though, he gets into it. He goes, I'm going to beat your ass. It's funny.
Kind of see
even
that
in the doorway, you know,
development.
when they're in the doorway and he's like, explain cursing.
Yeah.
He's like, just drum everything out to it.
He's like, it's got to be natural. Like, just say whatever. Just be crazy. And it was just...
Explain crazy.
Yeah. It was just such a cool moment between the brothers. And there are so many moments where you see that they're both learning from one another and learning about each other. And it's just really nice.
But prior to that comedy gold, it's probably the first scare of the movie, the first jump scare, I guess, is when he looks up. Because the daughter, I think, has woken him up and said, there's a monster outside my window. Can I have a glass of water? And then he's like, whatever. And he sits her down and then he sees this figure. Yeah. Which, in my memory, that was always such a quick flash. Yeah. But rewatching it, they linger on that shot for long enough for you to be like, oh, that's not a man at all.
That's not a dude.
Like, this is fucked.
How did you see a dude?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I don't know.
But I love that the people that they think are doing this is Lionel Pritchard and the Wolfington brothers.
It's just such a random name.
And it's just like, what? Who are these people? But apparently, I think they're local gangbangers or something.
One of the things I thought about when this movie ended was that whole thing of that the aliens take on like they're very camouflaged. Yeah. Whatever they're standing in front of, that's what you see.
Yeah.
And it means that the next time I watch this movie, if Shyamalan has used CGI. They're going to be in lots of shots. Do you know what I mean? And that's actually scary to think about, because there's often times where like a character's looking out into the cornfield and you can't see anything.
No.
But I wonder if you were to slow it down and zoom in, if you're seeing like a little reflective movement or something.
Oh God.
I hope he's done that, because that would be like, I love little like layered things like that reward further viewings.
Yeah, and I feel
But
like
geez, it'll
he'd
scare
do
me.
that.
It scares me to think about it. It could be in any freaking room in any scene.
Because you're like, they camouflage, they're everywhere right now.
Yeah. Yep.
So Bo continues to fill the house with half cups of glasses. And I love this because this is where they had the police officer over again, and they're like, it's Lionel Pritchard doing this. And Graham's like running around picking up all these water glasses. And I was like, that's me. I am Bo. Because I swear my grandma's like following behind me half of the time, like putting all my cups away. And I used to have like, I had like 4 pump bottles on my desk at one point, and like a big 2-liter, I don't know what they are, like a flask kind of thing. And I sent a picture to my sister, and I was like, "Oh, look at the family of water bottles on my desk." And her reply was, "How can you be happy? The lids are on the wrong bottles." Because one of them was like a raspberry flavored one. And so I had a purple lid on a blue bottle, and that was enough for my sister. She was like, I can't deal with this.
Yeah,
this is horrific.
Crazy.
And so, and because I hadn't seen the movie, I was like, maybe the water means something.
Yeah.
It's got to mean something, because I hadn't seen it for so long. I was just like, I can't remember what the water means. And
yeah, I think with the benefit of hindsight and knowing how well the start of this movie is structured with all the different setups, like you feel like an idiot for not picking the water. You know what I mean?
And I think maybe that's
it's not the only time they mention it. There's other bits that we'll get to later in the movie where they continue to mention little clues about the water. Like it maybe the ending shouldn't be as derided as it is. Like because it's not like some. I've seen monster movies where there's no setup for the quick little fix at the end that does it. It's just like some miracle idea that, there's its weakness. Whereas Signs has at least made the effort to, from the very beginning, foreshadow everything. Yeah. So I'll give it credit for that.
Yeah, but I mean, they could have set that up a little bit better at the, like, not set it up, but execute it better at the end.
Is it in this scene when the police officer's great?
Yeah.
I think it's Cherry Jones is the actress. She's awesome.
I think so, yeah.
She's basically like, it's almost a funny scene where they can't describe anything. Like, so you thought it was a man, and she kind of implies that maybe it was like what was it?
He called her
some of those Swedish Olympians,
the
quite tall,
Scandinavian
stuff like that.
Olympian high jumper.
Yeah.
Because Meryl's
even to the point where
it as well.
Yeah, Meryl kind of like gets annoyed about it, but then I don't know. This cop, she's such a great character that Meryl's even like, he feels bad and he goes, "I'm sorry that I didn't. I'm sorry," and she's like, "That's all right."
Because she says, "I don't appreciate sarcasm," and I was like, "Oh, I like."
Where it feels like she's being very sarcastic. She's good. Is it in this scene? Because I never noticed this when I watched this previously until the rewatch. And I think it's really great. Is the dog is not feeling well, and Mel Gibson's character says, I'll call the doctor, and one of the kids says, "But he doesn't work with pets. He's a human."
Oh, that was...
He's like, he'll know what to do.
Yeah, that was at
and
the
I never
start.
got that. And then I'm like, that's actually great, because what we learn is that the vet in the town is the guy that killed their mother. Like, I never actually picked that up, and that's really cool too. It's so clever.
I didn't notice that actually until last night when I watched it, and I was like, "Oh, that's why they didn't call."
It's really well done.
Yeah, no, that was at the start, because that was Houdini, and then he died just after that part. So, because he was trying to kill Bo. And so, basically, they're so this is where we find out that he's left the church, because Officer Paskey says, maybe it's someone who's angry at you for leaving the church. Yeah. And so I really like how the little bits of information are seeded throughout the whole movie without giving you the sad story straight away and being like, "Oh, boo-hoo, this is what happened." Which is, it's fine normally, but I really am impressed with the delivery of the information and the small parts, because it comes in flashbacks and nightmares and comments from other people and the kids, and it's just a really well thought out and structured way of delivering that part of the narrative.
Well, it's that classic show don't tell storytelling, really, where whenever M. Night Shyamalan can just let the visuals and the performances of the family speak for themselves, he just lets it happen, and then he'll just drip feed you a couple of things. Even the flashback to showing Graham talking with his wife, we just get drip fed that for the entire film.
And you're just like,
and it's
happened?
actually...
Tell me.
And the way they do it is really clever. It's really powerful.
Yeah.
It's the best way to do it. If they'd shown that at the start and then done a little callback to it at the end, it would have nowhere near as much power as it does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, drip feeding information. And this isn't a plot-heavy film either. This is a very, very simple film. Family discovers crop circles. Weird things happen. That's the movie.
Alien invasion, defeat aliens, and a movie. Done.
And it's clever, too, in that we learn that it's happening across the country and all over the world. But the point of view of the entire event is through the family.
Yeah.
The only other snippets we get are, again, when we're drip-fed information through other forms of media. And that's it.
And I think that's really
great.
great about it. Yeah. A lot of the reviews that I read were applauding how it was all through the eyes of this one family rather than other movies when we see like War of the Worlds and, you know, we're meeting all these different complex characters and they're trying to build these relationships and like extending that circle to other people. You know, in this film, it's just the family, and then you've got the officer, Ray Reddy, and the girl at the pharmacy.
I think the strongest stories...
She's fucking cracks me up.
I was just going to say, I think that the strongest stories have the smallest stakes. And like, this is obviously a worldwide event where we're looking at an invasion. But because we're just looking at it and the stakes primarily through the point of view of this family and what happens to them, I think that's way more powerful.
Yeah.
And I find the same thing, and this is a complete leap into something else, but you'll have like a superhero movie. And I think the best superhero movies are the ones where they're very small personal stakes, rather than this bad guy wants to enslave the entire world. The things that are quite small, always better.
Yeah. The ones where it's...
Because we can relate to them, I think. I mean, not that you can't relate to the end of the world.
No.
But it just feels like such a... Well, this year it doesn't feel like such a far-flung thing, but do you know what I mean?
Could still be possible.
Small and, when things are small and personal, it's so easy to sort of get on board with it. And this film gives you... with the family, 4 different characters who all have their own different things. But yes, the girl at the pharmacy. I'd forgotten how funny this movie was. It's actually, it's got some genuinely funny things in the first half.
Yeah, I love it. And what is she?
Oh,
what
I
is she
also love.
talking about? Sorry.
Oh, she's talking about how many times she's cursed.
Oh, yeah, that's
and
right.
She says,
and she
says,
Father,
is douchebag a curse? And he goes, he's so uncomfortable. He's like,
yes.
Depends on the context. And then, I can't remember what her context is, but he goes, yeah, that's a curse. And she goes, oh, in that case, it's not 31 curses, it's 72. And he's like, oh, God.
Oh, get me out of here.
Oh, it's so good too. And then he goes to his family and says, I don't want any of you to hang out with her again.
I don't want anyone spending time with her. Like...
I thought it was so funny. The old man who runs the bookshop. Just complaining about, it's not an invasion, it's not aliens, it's just they're trying to sell soda.
Yeah.
As I've seen 12 soda commercials, and then the kids are off talking, and a minute later he goes, 13! Another one!
Yelling at and I feel like those, because they're not intertwined directly into that family's life, that it's a nice little snapshot of other people's experiences in the town without having to build that relationship between the two. It's just like a glimpse of everyday life for that family and what they come into contact with.
And you need some of that. You need a bit of comedy in a film like this. You can't just have unrelenting dread. And obviously the family have lost the mum 6 months earlier, so they're not in a jokey mood. So you do need the townspeople to sort of be cracking up.
And it's in the bookstore that Morgan is saying that Bo has always had this thing with water.
Yes, so you learn about the water more, and he buys the book about
the
aliens, I think, which becomes a pretty crucial thing. So yeah, it's just the film just keeps setting things up. It's just building and building and building, and it's great.
And it's also
and then they have the great scene. They're at the they're having pizza.
Yeah.
And they see Ray. Is it Ray?
Yeah.
Is he the vet?
Ray Reddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They see Ray Reddy, and they don't even tell you, like they don't say, there's the man that killed our mum. It's just one of the
That's
kids
him,
says,
isn't
is
it?
that him?
Yeah.
And then another one says, yep. And then they all just look at him, and it's really powerful.
Yeah, and
Saying,
he just gets
doing
in the
it in as
car
little
and
words
he's
as
like,
possible.
I'm out of here.
Yeah. Oh, and it's I'd never felt this before, but that little tweak too, when you look at him get in his car and you go, oh man, that's a new car. Because his car got wrecked when he killed their mum. It's fucked up.
Yeah. Fuck. I didn't even notice that he was in a new car. Like, I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't something that clicked in my head. I just watched his face. Like,
Yeah.
terrified.
It's worth noting that is M. Night Shyamalan.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
We should have mentioned that. And
who
he plays
just
such
likes to bob up in his own films. He actually does a really good job.
Yeah, and he just I read somewhere that he cast himself in that role to make the film more personal for him. Because
that's great.
You know, he wanted to play a scene where he plays a very key role, but not a
Not a big role.
Not a big role. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so when they filmed that scene, it was actually Mel Gibson didn't know that Shyamalan was going to play that role, for starters.
Yeah.
And so
I heard
he
about
came in and was just like, "Hey." But there's a scene.
But yeah, he did really well.
Yeah. There's a scene further on that we'll get to, but they actually filmed that the day after September 11. And that's just intense to think about. Like being able to concentrate and fulfill your role while all you can think about is the fact that this incredibly devastating event has happened. And now...
It's a devastating scene, too.
Yeah, and now we're doing a devastating scene in a movie that is a traumatic and global event that's going to impact the entire world. So the context, even around the time that they were filming it, was really, volatile and emotionally charged and, overwhelming for everybody.
Definitely.
Would have been so hard.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, it's... I'm surprised they didn't just, shut filming down.
I'm really surprised as well. I think maybe they just were too far into it already, or...
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, they weren't sure what was going on. The world didn't really know what was going on then, I guess.
No.
So this scene, they all go home. And that's when they have the baby monitor. And...
sorry, Kat, prior to that, we have, a real crucial one, whereas... Meryl visits the army office, I guess.
The police office?
Is it the police office? I thought it was an army guy.
I thought
he was going to
I couldn't tell.
I always thought he was going to thinking of signing up for the army. And that's a great scene because you get more set up. You have the army guy recognize him as being the record holder for the longest home run, I think.
Minor league baseball.
home run.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have another character who is about the same age as Meryl.
That's Lionel Pritchard.
That's Lionel Pritchard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There he is.
That's him.
What's their last name again? Lionel Pritchard and the...
Wolfington Brothers.
And the Wolfington Boys. Love that. And he lets us know, basically, that Meryl's a bit of a loser, to be honest. He just swings at everything. And he connected with a couple, but he got struck out so many times. And so, it's this thing that he could be proud of, but also... Everyone would have assumed he would, make a career out of that, but he couldn't because he wasn't any good, and now he's a bit of a sad sack. And so that's an important scene because
they're talking about
it's what drives Meryl.
Yeah, and I really like Meryl as a character because he just doesn't take things too seriously. Yeah, because he's kind of got to play that role because his brother
and
is.
He cares about his and I mean he's doing a good thing for his brother.
Yeah,
and the police woman brings that up earlier. She says it's such a great thing you're doing, coming back home to help him out. He says, I don't think I'm helping that much. And she goes, trust me, you are.
Yeah.
And he really is. He's great with the kids too, because sometimes Graham's not emotionally available.
No.
In the way that I think the kids need their father to be. So it's great to have Meryl there because he's always sort of looking out for them and making sure nothing's going to happen.
But he definitely...
So that's great. It's a powerful bond.
He definitely breaks towards the end of the movie and you see that vulnerability that he's been trying so hard not to let out.
Yep.
because obviously, you know, when you're not that I know, but when a family member passes away, especially a key person like a parent, you want to be as strong as you possibly can. And it was just really nice to see that Shell not be there anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It was very that scene broke my heart. So this is the scene where Meryl basically tells Morgan that crop circles are made up by nerds that can't get girlfriends. And he goes on this massive tangent about this, blah, 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 blah. And I just love how Bo's like, why can't they get girlfriends? Like, so innocent and so lovely.
Yeah.
And so they actually climb out on top of the car and they can hear these voices. And it's the clicking noise that's becomes so
it's creepy.
Ugh. And this is where I also made another comment about the music, where it's like building a revelation, like a realization of, and that realization is Morgan's realization that there's something else out there. They're talking to one another. Something is going on, and it feels very directed just in his like turning point for believing in life out there.
Yeah, because it's clear from that scene that Morgan is the one who, this is confirmation for him.
Yeah.
Whereas Graham's still like, what the hell is this shit? Why are my kids climbing on my car?
Yeah.
But Meryl, I think in that moment, Meryl starts to sort of sway towards believing.
Like something's
and I
ticking
mean,
in his brain.
Bo, I think, is always just there.
Bo's
Bo
like,
just seems like, for a 4-year-old, she's just so wise. Like
she's along for the ride.
Yeah. But yeah, the music, it just creeps up on you, and it's great in that scene. I remember watching this for the first time, and it was even more scary because I thought that the other baby monitor was in the house, and so I thought that it meant that the aliens were in the house.
Yeah.
But I think it's just like crossed wires or whatever.
Ooh, still creepy.
Wait, is it? That's what they're implying, yeah? That
Yes.
it's just like a
Yeah,
crossed
that
signal.
they've picked up a radio
They're not in the
signal
house. They're not in the room next to the
No.
other.
No, I hope not.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I thought originally, and I was like, holy shit, this is fucked.
Nope, that's a no from me. I'm out.
Yeah.
And this is like a revelation point for Graham, or it's starting to take off for him in his belief when he his dog's barking at the cornfield. And so he says, Isabel, you're going to feel really silly when this all turns out to be make-believe.
Yep.
But he is hearing the clicking noises in the cornfield.
Yep.
So he goes in there. I held my breath for this entire scene because I was like, don't
he's
go
an
in
idiot.
there.
I would
why are
never
you
go
doing
in
that?
The minute I heard anything fucked, I would have just burnt the cornfield down and moved. I would have moved immediately.
Thrown a match, I'm out.
Yeah.
Done.
Cursed farm.
Cursed.
The corn business has not been kind to us. Let's move on.
I just would have been like, there's a serial killer in there. Like, I'm going to go in there.
Oh.
I'm not an idiot.
Doesn't even take a weapon.
No. He's just like, this is bullshit. I know.
This actually, that bothered me more than anything probably towards, we'll cover it towards the end, but towards the end, they don't weapon up.
No.
They kind of board the house up, and it's when they're downstairs later that they find an axe to kind of block the door. But at no point do they like grab a knife from the kitchen or a baseball. But like, how come Merrill doesn't think to grab the baseball bat as soon as he's aware of the presence of aliens?
No.
It baffles me that they don't get weapons.
It's the first
Also,
thing
it's
I would have
America.
done.
You don't have a gun. Like
It's 2002.
I get that.
So
I get that Graham wouldn't have a gun because he's probably very anti-violence. But like Merrill doesn't have
he
a little
doesn't
gun.
even have a
and his little-
handgun or something.
and his little shack next to the house.
Oh, he lives in the shack, does he? I thought he lived in the house.
I thought he lives. No, I think because there's the scene I think at the very start when Bo's screaming.
Oh,
And
yes.
Graham runs down, and then Meryl runs down the stairs from like this little, I don't
Thing.
know, little shack, little bungalow next to the house.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've never really. That
But
shows
anyway,
how much I
get
pay
weapons.
attention. Yeah, get a
Get
knife.
weapons and don't go into a cornfield at night. Oh,
And so this is like another sound.
yes. This is where the sound is at its peak because I don't think there's any music score here. It's literally the wind or lack of,
The thing
and
that
his feet crunching over
Yeah.
corn.
the thing that really bothered me was that he's walking through the cornfield and you can hear a breeze, but none of the corn is moving.
Yeah, I think it's like an alien generated.
That's
breeze.
why I thought I was just like, this is terrifying.
Yeah.
Why is there wind and no wind? What the fuck?
It's probably the scariest scene.
It's really intense.
There's one that comes up shortly after that's very frightening. But yeah, because of the sound design, I think, and the nighttime setting, and just the absolute unknown. And it's so great to watch the acting performance too, because he goes from like false bravado to just absolute fear.
Yeah.
Like he's shitting himself.
Drop of a hat.
Yeah.
It shows how easily that facade can be broken.
Yeah. Well, it's very real, I think.
Yeah. Like a real reaction, like how a non-actor would react in a non-film predicament.
And that stupid torch that malfunctions.
Oh, and then the alien that clicks next to his ear. No. I nearly threw up.
Clicks next to the ear.
He is like right next to his ear. Like the sound.
What? I don't even remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Jesus.
I was done.
That's one to go back in slow motion, because I bet you that alien's like right next to him, and it's just.
Well, you don't see the alien.
It looks like a cornfield.
But you see his it's like focused on his ear, and then you hear the click noise, and he just like runs straight back into the house.
Oh, it's bullshit. Also, you get the glimpse of the foot.
Yes, he sees that. No, that's what made him run.
That's I think does he fall over?
Yes.
Trips over, torch goes off, he's hitting the torch, and then when he comes back on, he flings it around, and you see this alien's leg popping out of the cornfield, and he just shits himself and runs.
Yuck.
Oh, you know what? So it's actually really frightening. So he runs down the road, the path in the cornfield, but then he cuts through the cornfield.
Yeah.
And as soon as he cuts through it, my mind just starts thinking, we already know, it's pre-established in the film already, they are quicker than him.
Yeah.
So if they actually wanted to, they could run through and grab you right now.
Yeah.
It's so scary to think
walk.
about.
Save your energy. They're not coming for you.
Far out. It's a scary scene.
Yeah, because he goes back into the house, and it's kind of like, I thought this was the point where he realised that aliens were real. But he's still just goes on denying. That's another great scene.
Is that where he sits down on the staircase? Yeah.
Yeah. And he's just like, turn the news on. Like, turn the news on.
I don't even know if he talks in that scene. It's another great wordless scene where he sits down and the kids look up after a little while. I think the kids are washing the dishes.
Yes.
And they turn around, and then Meryl's watching TV and he turns around. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's just like, oh. It's like, shit. And this is
That's when the movie goes up a gear.
Yeah, because this was another comedic relief, because so they turn the news on, and Morgan's given the speech about, do you want to be here in the moment of science and history that changes the world forever, and he goes to record the news over one of Bo's tapes, and she's like, no.
Yeah, that's right.
And so he's like, Uncle Merrill, I'm recording over one of your tapes, and it just says swimsuit special.
It's great. The little details
I was
are so good.
dying, because I was like, as a kid when I watched that, I would have been like, oh, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. It wouldn't have really fazed me when I first watched it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
now it's like, oh, Meryl.
Oh, Meryl, you
so
creep.
funny.
So this is another, we are given another drip feed of information about Graham's wife. And we just see him at the scene of the accident with Officer Paskey, and that's it. We don't know what's happened to her. They haven't said anything, but he's in his clerical suit when he goes down there. And Paskey's, explaining that Ray had fallen asleep behind the wheel. And that's basically the only information we're given, and the flashback ends. Yeah.
I think by that point, though, we have all the information we know all the information we need to put it together that his wife has been killed in the accident.
Without them even saying.
Which is why it's great that it cuts early and it just gets back to the present, back to the action.
Back to when Graham goes downstairs. Meryl's under the stairs watching the news to protect the kids. And then he goes into the lounge room and the kids are on the lounge with tinfoil hats on.
Yep.
Which is like, that's great. Shit I would have done as a kid. Easily. Yeah. Easily.
Which I think Morgan read from his book, to protect their brains.
Yeah, from their thoughts. Which, there's been no indication that the aliens control your thoughts at all in this movie. So, this is where, so Ray Reddy, well, they get a phone call at the house, and Graham thinks it's Ray Reddy. Or he automatically assumes it's Ray, and he goes over to his house. And Ray's sitting in his car.
Yep.
And he's basically, he apologizes to Graham for killing Colleen, Graham's wife.
Yeah.
And
this is one of the best scenes in the film.
that scene was
because
filmed after Shyamalan's grandfather's death.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And there's lots of little details like this. I also read that Shyamalan, there's a bit later on when Graham's telling the kids about their births.
Yeah.
Did you read about this?
It's about Shyamalan's kids.
That's what happened to his kids.
Yeah.
So it's a very personal film.
It's amazing.
Which is great. And that's what I love. Like, you don't automatically think that when someone says they're making a movie about aliens.
Yeah.
That it could be their most personal film.
But
it's what you do with the humanity of the characters. It's what you give the characters as fuel. And that's really good. And I love this scene with Ray because
me too.
It's brilliant. Graham does not want to talk about his wife.
No.
Because he's basically a brick wall and he does not want to burst. Like, if he goes to that place, he doesn't want to bring the emotions out. You can see when he gets emotional, he's annoyed at himself for being emotional in front of this man.
Yeah.
And so he's asking him questions. He's saying, where are you going? What's happened? He sees that Ray's got blood coming out of his stomach.
Yeah.
What happened to you? What's going on? Sort of questions. And I just love it because it's two men having two completely different conversations.
Yeah.
Ray is just staring ahead and talking about the night that he fell asleep at the wheel. And Graham's trying to bring him back to the present and be like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And it's just really beautiful.
And I think that's more of Graham's clerical side as well, like offering empathy and compassion and concern for people. And
yeah, he can't help it.
Yeah. It's just
and you see it earlier in the
nature.
film. He doesn't want to take confession from the pharmacist or from these people. One thing I love about this movie is nobody respects the fact that he doesn't want to be a priest anymore.
Everyone's like, whatever, father.
It's just who you are. You
Yeah.
are just...
They see him.
You are the man of God in this town, and you're the person that I want to talk to.
Yeah.
And I mean, the scene with Ray, it's really powerful.
Yeah.
We learn more information about what happened. He talks about how he's never fallen asleep in the car before. It had to happen at that exact 10-second moment where he was passing Graham's wife. And I think he says it's like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Which is a horrible thing to say to the man whose wife you killed. And yet it's so honest.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful moment. Yeah, and Graham forgives him. And it's an emotional scene.
Yeah.
And then it ends on that, just like... You have this great emotional bit, and then he goes, by the way, don't open the pantry.
Yeah.
I locked one of them in there. And then
then
it's
just
like,
leaves.
do-do-do, do-do-do. I think the music kicks in at that point, does it? And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Don't go in there. But
Yeah.
also, Shyamalan filmed this scene as Ray with two photos in his pocket. He had a photo of his grandfather, and he had a photo of the vigil that the entire production team and cast of the vigil that they had after September 11 in his pocket as a I don't know, it, like, imagine concentrating on that as you're trying to film this emotional scene. It'd only really enhance that those feelings that you already have.
It's good technique.
Yeah.
It's a great performance. I've seen him in other stuff where he's not that great, but I think with the right role, and he obviously wrote something that was really personal to him.
Yeah.
And it's such a small, crucial thing. And to be honest, your attention is on Graham's face in this moment. You're watching the emotions that he's going through when he's hearing his wife spoken about again and all of that. Oh, and it's also great that he has that thing where he's like, I had your phone number next to my phone for the last 6 months. And I couldn't call. Like, I've wanted to call and I couldn't. And then this happened. He alludes to something that's happened in the house. And he goes, yours was the only number I could think of.
Wow. Imagine
how... Oh, and then, of course, he gives us the detail of, I've heard they don't like water.
I'm going to the lake.
So I'm going to go down to the... Yeah, going to the lake.
Yeah, it's a real...
And he buries, like, it's clever because that throwaway comment is buried in amongst all this emotional stuff. So it doesn't feel like a really forced on the nose thing. It just feels like I'm going to the lake.
Yeah. And it's because it's said in the same tone that he's talking about everything else. So it's just like it's like word vomit. Like, it's just every thought that he's got in his head that he's been meaning to say, that he needs to say, is just all coming to the forefront. And then he just takes off.
Yep.
And of course, Graham, the idiot, goes into the house.
Fool.
Oh,
I wouldn't have gone in. Probably would have burnt it down.
I just would have done everyone a favour and hosed it off.
Actually, yeah.
Just hose the house down. But I really like that he goes into the house. But I like what he's saying as he goes into the house.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. How he's like,
He pretends to be a cop.
Yeah.
But he's so shit.
I'll cut you the same deal I cut all the others.
Yeah, I
was
think
like,
he says,
okay.
I am the police.
Yeah.
I am with the police.
It's so...
Yeah, the cutting the deal thing's great.
Yeah, I love that
Because
he did that.
by then, his confidence is really sky high. Like, he's got a lot of swagger. He goes, I'll cut you the same deal I cut everyone else.
Yeah.
He's so happy with himself.
It's like, I'm good at this.
Yeah. But it's good. It's actually, like, it's a really believable moment, too.
Yeah.
He tries to look under. He can't. He kind of shakes himself off.
He's like,
and
okay,
he's
I
like,
can do
fuck it.
this.
I got to leave. Comes back and then marches back in, grabs the knife. But again, it's so funny because he's just a priest.
Yeah.
Doesn't grab a knife out of self-defense or violence. He grabs it because he wants it to use it as a mirror.
Yeah.
Which is just really interesting.
And
Frightening. I hate that scene.
yeah, I'm like, no, you're going to see something in that knife you don't want to see. Don't do it.
Yep.
Burn the house down, leave. GTFO.
This movie gave me a real fear of doors that have unusually large gaps at the bottom.
Like in bathrooms.
Well, that's
the
a
only
big
place I
gap,
can
but
think
I just
of.
mean like a random door. Like our lounge room door has a bigger than I would like gap
Do you just
underneath.
put like one of those door snakes under it?
I probably should.
Just
But
do
we
that.
open and close it so often that I guess you can get the ones that attach, can't you? God, I
Yeah.
should fix it because I'm watching horror movies and I can see the gap. And occasionally, like our dog,
No.
who might be down the other end of the house, he might walk up and you can just see a shadow under the door. It scares the shit out of me every
No,
time.
not allowed.
Got to fix that.
Got to fix that. I'm sorry
Yeah.
that happened to you.
It's just this scene, frightening.
I really like that
frightening.
he's like, we all know it's a hoax.
So of course the alien's hand comes out
Oh,
and
He cuts its fingers
I
off.
think it grabs him.
I
it's a-
can't... but
The
he
editing of this
tries to
scene
get
is
it.
interesting. Like it's
Yeah.
a real chaotic moment, and then he picks the knife back up because I think he dropped the knife in fear, in
Yeah.
panic, and then cuts I think 2 of the fingers off.
Because it just feels like so much just... Yeah, it's chaos, like you said. And you're just like, whoa,
Yeah.
wait, what happened?
Yeah,
But
it happens so quickly for him that if he still doubts that it's aliens, I don't think that's enough for him to believe it. Do you know what
exactly, yeah. But I think he
Yeah.
saw something in the mirror, didn't he? I think he...
I mean? I don't know if he did.
I can't remember.
I think the jump scare is he's looking, he sees like some pantry shelves, and then it's just like a hand comes out.
Yeah.
I think. I can't
that's
remember.
it. Yeah. And for me, it's like, is this the point where Graham finally admits that there's life out there?
Yeah.
And because, he's spent the last 6 months denying the existence of any omnipotence.
Yep.
Because God took his wife away. And so I think him admitting there's aliens, he'd have to then re-engage with his faith in a way. And so he basically goes back to the house and proposes 2 options for him and his family. They go to the lake, or they stay and defend the house. But, wait.
There is the scene happens in between all that. I think while he's at Ray's place, Meryl is in the cupboard
Again.
watching the TV.
Yes.
And there is the moment that I don't know if it's still on this list, but I think it was once voted one of the scariest top 100
Yes, I
scariest
saw
scenes
that.
in a movie or something.
Yeah.
This a kid's birthday party and everyone's
In
screaming
Brazil.
because they think they see something. Yeah, there's all Brazilian kids, and then the video camera lingers on the driveway, and then an alien walks out in front of the camera, and it's scary.
That didn't
It's a
scare
scary
me.
scene. It didn't scare you?
No. I
Like
think
this
I was
time, or when you
expecting
first watched it?
I can't remember the first time I watched
Oh,
it.
you definitely expect it. It's
Yeah.
it's not one of the movie's jump scares.
No.
They actually have a music score. Like the score is building, and then it does the drop, and then the alien walks out. So
Yeah.
they're very much like they're not trying to jump scare you, but it's pretty frightening.
Trying to
It
prepare
was way
you.
more frightening when I was a kid.
Mm.
Like now you watch it and you're like, it looks a little goofy, but it's still scary, I guess.
Yeah, I was more scared by the hand under the door.
Yeah, me too.
Because
I think so.
I was
Because
expecting
it's a
though.
glimpse. Yeah, it's just a tiny little glimpse. Whereas this is like your first full-on shot of this thing.
And that's what
They do it through a camcorder, so it's still like a bit blurry or whatever.
Shyamalan actually filmed that with a camcorder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I thought was really cool.
I-
So it wasn't just like
think
a
he-
filter or something. He actually filmed.
I was reading something about he had to cut the parents of the scene out because their accent
Yeah.
was different than the kids or something.
Because
It's
they
good
didn't
attention
have
to
like
detail.
a Brazilian enough accent or something.
Yeah.
And they'll, because he filmed it in Miami, I think, in
Yeah.
Florida.
Yeah.
And so, he said, something about the accents not being authentic enough. So had to cut it. or edit them out. So I was like, oh.
Yeah. But yeah, Meryl's reaction to that's quite strong. Like, he's
Yeah.
terrified, and I think he replays it and watches it again, and then Graham comes home
And they're
gives
all
them
on the lounge
options.
with tinfoil hats on.
Oh, that's right. He walks in, tinfoil hats. That's great. That's when he sits on the stairs, I think, and
Yeah.
he says,
We've
"Here's
gotta
the
do
two
something."
options.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to the lake, and what's the other option? Stay here."
Stay in and look after the house. And so they board the entire house up.
Yeah.
At this point.
Not before a vote though.
Oh, yeah, they
do
voted.
a vote in which Graham says his vote counts for 2.
He vetoes everyone.
And then Bo changes her mind because Morgan brings up a great point where he goes, "I don't want to leave the house. This is where we were with Mum. This is Mum's house,
Which is so
which
nice.
is a really cute thing."
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they board the house up,
Yeah.
but don't find weapons.
No.
Also, I actually hate them for forgetting the dog. They forget about
I know
the
they
dog.
leave the dog outside.
Like,
The dog would
originally
be
have
the
a
first
plan,
thing
which
I'd
is they're going to tie the dog up outside,
Yeah.
which is even worse. Let the dog free so it can run away, you assholes. But then,
jerks.
after they boarded the whole house up, they hear it barking, and the kid goes, "Oh no, we forgot the dog." And I'm like, "You're a piece of shit."
You didn't forget.
Not the kid. It's Graham's fault.
Graham or Meryl. Adult decisions.
Should have brought the dog in with them.
Yeah, I don't know.
What would be the problem with bringing the dog inside?
I don't know.
Because it's like Graham says, the aliens know they're in there anyway.
Yeah.
Like, that's an annoying thing too. They forget to turn the lights off. Do you know what I mean? They're like, "Should we turn the lights off?" "Ah, they already know we're here." It's like,
Well,
they
then
do
get the
now 'cause you've
dog.
had the freaking lights on. Actually, and there's a great scene too where, "What do you want for dinner?" And they all want
Different
something
things.
different, and they all sit down and have it, and then they're all too scared to eat, and finally Graham breaks down and cries.
Yeah.
It's all too much
This
for him.
scene was probably my
Oh, you know what the
favourite
trigger
scene.
is? The trigger is that one of the kids wants to say grace
Yeah.
or something like that. Say a prayer to God, and he's like, "We're not praying to God."
Yeah. He
Which
said
I
the
just
last
love.
thing
I
he'll
love
ever
his
do.
loss of faith.
Yeah, and it's really just not like in your face loss of faith. It's just like, I just don't want to deal with that right now.
Yeah.
It's
Which is great because
Yeah.
they could have done that. I think a lesser movie would have done that at the start. It
Yeah.
would have shown you that he hates God. But this movie just, again, like we've said, it drip feeds you, and then you just have that scene where emotions are high, he's at breaking point, and the kids won't eat until they can say a prayer to God, and he's just like, "Fuck this shit. I'm not doing that."
yeah.
And they all start crying, and he starts eating a bit off everyone's plate, and then the kids give him a hug. It's a beautiful moment, and
Yeah.
kind of funny and sweet too, because he drags Meryl in as well, and it's
Yeah.
nice.
It's
a really nice
nice
moment.
And it's just yeah, it really broke me, and I think it's because like I grew up being raised by my single dad. And so, like, my mum didn't pass away or anything, but, like, that, not having that support person, like, I could see that
Yep.
in my dad. And
Yep.
my dad, I think the only time my dad has ever cried was maybe when my niece was born.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
think.
Yeah. Well, that is
That
the
I've
thing.
seen.
You watch, particularly an actor like Mel Gibson, who's a very tough, plays a tough guy mostly. Like, I think he said this is his most introspective character he
Ever played.
really has ever had to play.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have his usual things to fall back on, which is violence and aggression.
And a gun
really.
and
Yeah, he
kicking
doesn't have those
faces.
tools. So he's dipping into his actor toolkit and having to come
Yeah.
up with emotions that you probably haven't seen him do for... I mean, he would have had a period in his career where he made it as a star, and so he just did like action adventure stuff forever.
yeah.
So he wouldn't have had to actually emote like he did in this movie for so long. It is really good. Like,
Yeah, I really...
all 4 of them are so good in this film.
Yeah, they play just such impactful roles
Yeah.
that
And
are really
giving
fantastic.
giving you that moment too where they all break down and they're hugging it out as a family. It just realigns the stakes of the movie again
Yeah.
for you. The family unit are back together. They're really tight. We've bonded with them. We really like them.
Yeah.
And we're at the most dangerous point in the movie where essentially they know an invasion is coming because of the news.
Yeah,
Again,
the
the
news
news
has
has
said something
drip
about
fed us
it.
that info.
Well,
Yeah.
it says here, I've written
isn't
here
it?
that they end up watching the news together before while after they've boarded the house, and they're talking about how lights are visible over all these different cities worldwide. There's crop signs everywhere, and that there's more appearances of aliens. So
Isn't it funny that a lot of the information that goes into helping them come up with a plan just comes from the book that Morgan's reading?
I thought that was really cool because
combined with, and they acknowledge it too. They acknowledge that it's kind of silly.
And the
but it's
lady
like, well,
in the
what else
shop,
do we actually have?
the lady in the bookstore was like, "Oh, this is for city folk.
Yeah,
Like, it's just for them if they ever want it."
Yeah.
And I just thought it was really cool that Morgan picked that up. Off
Yeah,
a
but
whim.
you also have that nice moment where Morgan recognizes on the news something that he's seen in the book, which I think is he basically apologizes to his dad. He goes, "I'm sorry. Like, I think they're hostile now.
Yeah.
I was wrong. We should have gone to the lake."
Yeah.
And his dad, like, he's been a good dad in that moment. Is like, "Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's not your fault.
Don't worry.
Let's get on with it."
Let's do this. But this is they finish boarding up the house, and they have the scene where they talk about the births.
Yes.
And my heart was just like, is this him saying goodbye to his kids in case anything happens?
It is. Yeah, I definitely think it is, because he says something later to Meryl when he says, "You didn't think we'd make it through the night." And I don't even know if he answers him, but it's the look on his face. And I think he shakes his head like he didn't expect to survive. So I think that's kind of...
Yeah, because it was really...
it's really sad.
And the thing is, like, I love hearing my birth story from my dad's perspective, because it's not something you hear your dad discuss with emotion, because obviously it would be so emotional for your parent. I've only ever heard it from my grandmother or my mum. And so when I asked my dad, it felt like a totally different story.
Yeah.
Even though it's...
point of view.
Yeah, and I think that them hearing that from their parent and from their dad after, being an emotional nothing for the last 6 months was really important for them. Mm-hmm. To be like, okay, well, dad still gives a shit. Cool.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
beautiful. Like, this movie's just filled with beautiful moments of the family. Like, to the point where, like, you almost can't breathe when they go down into the basement.
Oh,
it's just like, I don't want anything bad to happen.
Don't do
when
it.
a movie sets up multiple characters, and often it'll kill, like, one of them?
Yeah.
For me, like, I always hate that, because that's not a victory. Like, take this movie, for example. If any of these characters had died, I would have felt like shit at the end of it. Like, it's kind of all or nothing. They've all got to get through it, or it's horrible. And then you would just roll the credits.
Yeah.
Often a movie just rolls the credits and
No,
like, it's all
too bad.
good. And it's like, no, it's not.
No, you don't get to just do that shit to me.
Yeah.
And I kind of really like that they didn't do that with this.
Yep.
But they didn't kill anybody off.
And then again, the sound design is incredible, because they're all sort of standing downstairs in the lounge room, and you just start to see, you hear the dog barking really aggressively, and then whining, and then being silent, which is just fucking heartbreaking.
Thanks.
Bullshit. And then you see the shadows start to come around the house, and then the banging, the loud knocking. It's so scary every time you hear, like, just banging on the door, and you hear noises upstairs.
The scuffling? That
Scuffling,
bothered me.
yeah. Them on the roof is really unsettling.
Because they realise they haven't blocked off the attic. And they were like,
the fucking attic.
Shit, we've got to get into the basement. Because we've boarded ourselves in here, we can't go out because there's an alien invasion. Let's go to the basement. And it's in the basement that Morgan has an asthma attack. And this scene with his dad, talking him through being able to breathe, and, we're all together, we are one, like, let's breathe together. I was like, you go, Dad.
It's the best scene in the film. That's my favourite
really
scene.
Touching.
And my favourite part of it is when he starts talking to God, and he tells him that he hates him. Like, that's such a powerful, powerful scene. And because that's the theme of the whole film, is faith. And it's... I watched a great film recently called Calvary.
Okay.
And that's all about faith. It's a brilliant film. People should check it out. There's a great line in it where someone is questioning if a religious person's faith is so strong, how could they give it up so easily? And the priest quite rationally just says, but what is fear? What is faith but the fear of death? And I think about that a lot, and that applies to this film. He's been faced with death, and his faith just snapped, broke off immediately. And here he is faced with it again. And he was probably a very religious man for the previous 40 years of his life. So his instinct would be to pray to God and hope that God gets me through this. But that part of him, the connection's broken. Like, it's severed, basically. And I don't know. I really love that scene. Just him saying that I hate you is so strong.
Yeah, and he's
and
saying,
it's like an all is lost sort of moment.
Yeah, because he's, you've already done this to me once, and now you're going to do it to me again. Yeah. That really broke me.
That's the most heartbreaking scene. And what comes before that is really frightening. Is, they realise they're just banging on the door and making sound. They're not trying to get in, and it's diversion. And they think, we used to pour coal into this basement. There's got to be another way in. And then it's just that brilliant wide shot where the two torchlights meet in the middle, and Morgan's standing in front of like a grate, and it's just the finger. Camouflage finger comes around and grabs him, and it's terrifying.
Because that's the next morning, isn't it?
Well, that happens at night, and then I think
morning happens.
He does the breathing exercises to get him through the night, but they realise because they've set up the asthma stuff earlier on, we don't have his medicine. Yeah, because they panicked and just ran down there in a rush. We need to get the medicine, but they learned that they've got the. I think they got the radio on at some point. Yeah, and they heard that they were escaping, or
that they were leaving Earth. They're defeated, which is seems like a too quick moment.
Seems too good to be true.
Yeah. I was like, okay, all right.
But I think they make the decision, like, if he has another asthma attack, he won't survive. We need to get that medicine.
And so they leave.
But I love how quickly they decide.
Yeah,
they listen to the radio. It's not confirmed, and like, it's good enough for me.
I'm out. All right, let's go. But so they go out into the where am I up to? So I've missed something.
No, you're right. They go upstairs.
Yeah, and
put him on the couch.
Yes.
Everything seems fine. There's windows broken, obviously, and there's a mess, but it seems okay. Graham says, I'll drag the TV in for you. You can watch the news. You can see them talking about how we survived, blah, blah, blah. And there's that great shot. He drags the TV in, and in the reflection, you see an alien figure.
Yeah, that's right.
An awesome shot.
And there, he grabs Morgan, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got Morgan, and then the thing comes out of his wrist, the little
mist or something.
The venom. Because I think this isn't a thing that we've just heard of. I think they mentioned that earlier in the film, that they poisoned people. It might have only been like a few minutes earlier. I think Meryl said they poisoned a lot of people died or something like that.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that.
I think they mentioned it. I don't think it's just a random thing that suddenly it's like, oh, by the way, they've got poison powers too.
No.
If that is new information, then that's pretty poor. But I think they did bring it up. Maybe only a few minutes earlier, but yeah. And then of course we get the fulfillment of the flashback to Graham's wife dying.
We see
and her last words and the recurrence of the swing away Meryl, which is what they used to say at his baseball games.
Yeah. And Graham says to him, her brain was still firing, and what she was replaying before she died was a memory of us at one of your baseball games. And so he just says, swing away. And I don't know what he's hitting, because he's hitting all the glasses that Bo's left everywhere.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, accidental. I think he hits it in the body first.
Yes.
And it drops, although not before it actually poisons Morgan.
Yeah.
So he hits it, it drops him. Graham grabs Morgan and runs out to the front to try and help his breathing. And then I think he just knocks the alien against the TV
and
it knocks the glass down.
Yeah.
And then you see it burning its skin, and then suddenly, there we go. It's
Wait
water.
a sec.
Yeah. So it's a great scene. The music's building, everything's great, and it's just it's Graham trying to
Oh,
trying
the
to
scene
bring
where
his
he's
kid
like,
back.
you didn't breathe it in, you didn't breathe it, you didn't breathe it. Like,
Yeah, it's really clever. It's like his asthma closed his lungs, so none of the poison got in. So that's great.
Would that technically happen in real life, though? IRL?
Not sure. Probably not.
Probably not.
Not really sure though.
Not medically correct.
What we did forget is down in the basement when Meryl says you didn't think we'd make it through the night, and Graham says no, and then he says I saw something in your eyes and I never want to see it again. Just that complete. He goes, you can't lose faith.
Yes, he says.
It looked like you lost faith in everything.
And because he was saying that he was always in awe of the faith that his
yeah,
brother
he's
had.
like, you're my big brother, and I've always wanted to be you.
Yeah.
But I still something about that look in your eye. I never ever want to see that again.
Yeah.
So we're out in the front lawn, and it's interesting because Meryl actually is probably the first one to give up. They can't get Morgan to breathe, and Meryl's like trying to tell Graham to stop, and he turns away because he can't bear to look at it. And Graham doesn't give up. I guess in that moment, his faith is sort of still there and lingering, and then Morgan breathes again. And I think, what does Morgan say? Did someone save me? And he looks up, Graham looks up and says, yeah, I think someone did. Aww. Which is quite nice.
Yeah.
His faith is restored.
Yeah. And it was just a nice feeling. Like, it gave me goosebumps. Yep. That scene. And I just like how Bo is always just tagging along. She's like, oh yeah, hey guys, I'm here. Hello.
Yep. Also, there's that implication in the film that Bo kind of saw the future.
Yes.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Because
she saw Morgan die.
Yeah. It's nuts. It's
horrifying.
It's kind of cool. Kids are terrifying.
Just to throw you off, I guess.
Yeah. Just give you a little bit of something else. So then they fast forward to a few months, and we see that Graham's actually getting ready to go back to church, which is nice. When the symbolism of the movie is alluding not only to signs of other life, but signs and coincidences in our everyday life that kind of say to us, hey, there is something omnipotent out there. Yeah. And Graham's
That's what's great about it.
Yeah.
Just, signs that point to faith and the reason to never stop believing and to always be looking out for it's just the film. I think it's really powerful. A lot of people criticize the ending. The whole water thing defeats the alien.
I feel like
it's like one of the characters say it. I think Meryl, or one of the characters says it. Everything has a weakness. And so all they did is just identify the weakness of this thing.
Yeah, and they kind of knew it all along anyway from the signs that they'd been given. Yeah. And they did a hell of a lot to foreshadow that water was going to be the thing. So. And the funny thing is, I just thought about it. It's like water is used as a cleansing agent in Catholicism and in Christianity and baptism and renewal, and it's the water in itself is this really powerful symbol throughout the movie. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. It's a heavy movie, isn't it? When you think about it. It's a great film. It is really good. I really do. Yeah. I really do like it. Great choice. Thank you. I now don't have to watch it for a little while. I'll let it sort of wear off. But I will definitely watch it again. I just think it's a really beautifully made film. And absolutely. It's full of really rich themes and great performances. And it has a slightly iffy last 10 minutes. But the last 10 minutes didn't ruin the movie though, which is thank God. Didn't ruin it, but probably holds it back from being an absolute masterpiece of a film. Yeah. Because so much of what comes before that is really strong. Yeah, everything before a great film. Awesome. Yeah. So I just until now I would never have looked at it as a movie of divine intervention instead of just an alien invasion. Oh yeah, I mean it's so weird, isn't it? It's a really deep movie, and you wouldn't expect it to be, but I think that's the benefit of just it being such a really simply plotted film, is that I actually love a horror film where you could take the aliens out of this, and you've still got a really interesting story about a family. Yeah, I think. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be an alien. It could just be any event that kind of rocks the family a bit. And I could say the same about a movie like The Descent. Have you seen that one? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to have
the cave monsters in that movie. That's a brilliant film, actually, without any monsters.
Yeah, the
because it's just
development
people
and
going
story.
down into a claustrophobic setting and all falling apart under pressure. It's great. It didn't have to be so rude to me by scaring me.
I hated that movie. It terrified me.
It's really
that
scary.
movie definitely scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I was not.
The
a
other good
fan.
thing is we're not going to go into caves, so who cares?
Oh well, see, my sister.
I can sleep at night.
Yeah, my sister used to go caving with a friend.
Oh God.
And then a couple of years later, I saw The Descent, and I was like, "Oh, Emily, you can't go into caves anymore."
Yeah.
Not that she was at that point, but
I did my caving before I watched The Descent, so now I don't have to do it again.
I'm too claustrophobic. Like, I think I'd actually have an anxiety attack and pass out,
No,
and they have to like drag me out.
I am too. I'm claustrophobic too. I don't know why I went in. I went into a bat cave.
Ugh.
Yeah, no good.
I can't go anywhere where
good.
I feel like it's gonna fall on, like collapse on me.
Yeah.
So no caves, nothing. Nope.
Yep, I agree with that.
No thanks. So being a scaredy boy and all,
Yes.
what was the last horror movie you watched?
I watched one a couple days ago called Fire in the Sky.
Okay.
Have you heard of that one?
No, I haven't.
It was made in the 90s. It's based on a true story from the 70s about an alien invasion. Sorry, an alien abduction, rather. This guy named Travis Walton claimed that he was abducted by aliens and he was missing for 5 days, and then they found him naked and screaming.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was a group. They were out in like the woods on a government contract, chopping trees down or something. And all 5 of these guys, or all 6 of them, they pulled the car over because there was a fire in the sky, lots of lights in the sky, and they all claim that they saw a flying saucer. And Travis got out of the car and looked at it and got zapped by it, and they all shit themselves and drove off.
Just left him there.
And then, and left him. They just freaked out. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And then they came back, or one of them came back to find him, and he was gone. And so for 5 days, the whole town thought that they'd murdered him, and there was like an investigation. And then he came back and said he was abducted, and they all had to do like a polygraph test where I think all of them, except for one guy who was a bit iffy, all of them passed the polygraph test. And so it was just like this weird thing for a while.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds really interesting.
But yeah, it's not a very scary film, so I found it quite pleasant. Someone suggested it. We had to do it for Scaredy Boys. But there is a 10-minute sequence towards the end where he has a flashback to being abducted.
Ooh.
And you see inside the alien ship, and it is very, very scary. It's a terrifying scene.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's disgusting. He like wakes up in this sack, and he has to like burst out of it.
Ew.
And then he gets dragged along by these aliens, and he tries to escape, and his hand goes through the wall, and he falls in, and there's like another human body, but it's a body that's been there for a while, and it slowly like gets up and is gasping, and then he escapes, and then the aliens get him, and
God.
they look horrible. Like,
yeah.
It's not like little flashes, so you only see a little bit. They actually like full on show you these creatures, and they just look like so disturbing and unsettling. And then they've got him tied to the chair, and they're like injecting needles into his eyeballs and doing all sorts of weird shit.
I thought aliens just do butt stuff.
Well, I had to laugh because the first thing they do when they throw him on the table is take his pants off, and I was like, here we go.
Well, living up to the stereotype.
But then they just like put like this, basically like a plastic bag type thing covered his face, and then cut eye holes in it, and like put things in his eye, and it was disgusting.
Oh my God.
Yeah, really unsettling for an otherwise pleasant film. But yeah, apparently he did another polygraph test years later, and they asked him, were you abducted by aliens? And it came up negative. So everyone just thinks it's a bit of a hoax, to be honest.
Interesting. I'm going to have to check that out.
It's a cool film.
Sounds like it. I recently watched Scare Package on Shudder, and
have not heard of it. Too scared to get Shudder.
Yeah. But it'd be a good resource for you guys.
It probably would be.
Yeah.
We should get it.
It's only $6 a month or something. It's so good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a good price. Does it have heaps and heaps of stuff?
I use a VPN, so I get access to the American content.
Does it have all like
awesome.
the big popular horror films? Is it just like weird fucked up stuff?
Weird fucked up stuff.
Okay.
Anthologies, creep shows on it.
Yeah, nah.
But I watched Scare Package. It's funny. It is hilarious. There's this the one that I watched is Once in the Woods. So there's like 7 stories by 7 different directors, and It's just brilliant. And there's a scene where there's like this serial killer and he's chasing this girl through the woods, and this girl runs into another guy, and the guy's like, oh, I'm just hunting, you know? She's like, get out of here, like, leave, he's coming for you. And so the serial killer catches up to the guy and like rips his legs off and like beats him with them. And it's just one leg to begin with. And he's like, here we go. And then he's like, now he's ripped off the other one. And he's like, I'm never going to run that marathon. And like, I was
What?
I was in my room cackling. And my grandma's like, what are you watching? And I explained it to her and she's like, you're sick in the head. I was like, no, but it's actually, like, it's meant to be a comedy. Like, the whole anthology is a comedy. It's just very gory and... it's just really good, and I highly recommend watching it. It's really cool. You should...
I'm just trying to think what the best horror I've watched for Scaredy Boys is, and it's probably The Thing.
I haven't watched that yet. It's on my list.
It's
on my pledge
really
list.
Good. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I definitely want to see it. Did you watch the original?
Yes, the original. I haven't seen the remake.
No, I'm just wondering if the remake's even worth it, so...
Probably not.
Probably not.
Definitely go original.
No, I'm not even
It's great.
I'm highly unimpressed that they're remaking The Exorcist, because I just really like the cinematography and the practical effects they did with the first one. I don't want to see no CGI exorcism. I don't want to see that. So
they shouldn't remake it.
No, they are though. So
that's disappointing.
I'm just really disappointed.
That movie's fucked up.
I really like it in its original form. That's how it should stay. So
yeah,
don't ruin shit. Anyway. Stop ruining good things. To wrap up the podcast, can you please tell everybody where we can find you, podcasts, social media, whatever you use?
Yeah, sure. I'm on Twitter at Carney from 55, and you can also find the Scaredy Boys show at Scaredy Boys, and we're on all the podcast apps. I think it's everywhere.
Yeah, I have you on Spotify.
Yeah.
Everyone should definitely give it a listen. It is a riot. I don't listen to the episodes of movies I haven't watched yet, so I've been trying to make sure they're movies I've seen. But yeah, highly recommend giving you a listen. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on my podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.